Good day and welcome back to the British Report channel. I have a brilliant, brutal piece of television for you today, a moment so politically devastating that you could practically hear the collective gasp of the Labour Party establishment across the United Kingdom. We are talking about the complete and utter demolition of Scottish Labour leader Anna Sawar on Question Time by the formidable host Fiona Bruce, who delivered a surgical interrogation that exposed the core of the Labour government's deepest, most cynical hypocrisy, the decision to scrap the two-child benefit cap. This entire episode is a case study in what happens when politicians try to perform a massive, high-profile U-turn and fail to bring a single believable answer with them. Bruce's question was simple, elegant, and absolutely savage. Hang on, why is lifting the two-child benefit cap for Labour a moral mission this year and last year it just wasn't? With those few sharp words, she cornered Sawar, leaving him floundering and exposed, his party's carefully crafted political narrative shredded in front of a live national audience. Quick favour, if you are loving this chaotic, dramatic insight into Britain's collapsing political scene, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It is free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Thanks, if you did. Now back to the show, because what followed was the most uncomfortable piece of television the Scottish Labour leader has endured in his career. The context of this humiliation is everything. For years, the two-child benefit cap, the measure introduced by the Conservatives that prevents parents from claiming universal credit or child tax credit for a third or subsequent child, was labelled as heinous, cruel, and the single biggest driver of child poverty by the Labour Party in opposition. Yet, after taking office, Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government voted against scrapping the cap in a July vote, and in a jaw-dropping display of political ruthlessness, stripped the whip from 7 of its own MPs who dared to rebel and vote with the SNP to ditch the abhorrent policy. Sawar himself, who had previously described the cap as heinous, spent months trying to defend the UK Labour's position, even claiming at one point that scrapping the policy would spook the markets and risk a repeat of the disastrous Liz Truss mini-budget. He was forced to contort himself into a human pretzel, claiming he opposed the cap but had to respect Starmer's fiscal rules. Now jump forward to last month, Chancellor Rachel Reeves, facing plummeting poll ratings for the Labour government and a massive revolt on the left-wing base, used her tax-hiking budget to suddenly announce the decision to remove the cap from April next year, a move that will cost £3 billion and is expected to lift 450,000 children out of poverty. It was a clear, unmissable U-turn, a total capitulation to the moral and political pressure that had been building since they came to power. The move was nakedly political, designed to shore up the Prime Minister's position and win back the trust of the left-wing base. This is precisely where Fiona Bruce, sitting in Paisley, delivered the fatal thrust to Sawar. When she asked why it was a moral mission this year but not last year, Sawar's feeble attempt at an answer was instantly obliterated. He tried the classic political deflection, mumbling, "First of all, you can only make decisions when you know where the money is coming from." But before the words could fully leave his mouth, Bruce interrupted him with the clinical fact that demolishes the entire excuse. "But there's not suddenly more money this year. That's why taxes are going up." Boom, direct hit. The implication is irrefutable. The money has not magically appeared. The government is simply raising taxes, freezing income tax thresholds for years, forcing more people into paying tax, and choosing to spend it now, a choice they politically refused to make previously. Sawar was forced to pivot into pure desperation, falling back on the last line of defense available to him. The reason why it's a moral mission is I don't think it would be acceptable after the 15 years of damage we've had from the Conservatives that a Labour government we would see child poverty numbers going up. This is the admission of guilt. He is essentially confirming that Labour was prepared to let child poverty numbers rise if it meant adhering to a set of self-imposed, politically convenient fiscal rules that were only abandoned when the political cost of keeping the cap became greater than the financial cost of scrapping it. The political optics of this entire fiasco are devastating for the Labour government, and especially for Sawar. The clip of him being cornered by Fiona Bruce is now being played endlessly because it perfectly captures the deep cynicism of Starmer's leadership. The move to scrap the cap has been universally welcomed by anti-poverty campaigners who state it will immediately lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. But the sheer hypocrisy of the timing cannot be ignored. The public is left wondering, were the 7 MPs who were suspended from the party for voting against the cap a year ago right all along? They were punished, humiliated, and stripped of their political voice for standing up for what the government now claims is a moral mission and a cornerstone of its Labour values. The fact is, the policy was politically expedient when Starmer was trying to appeal to fiscally conservative voters and was only abandoned when the internal party revolt, coupled with the collapse in the polls, made the political gamble too risky to continue. Anna Sawar, in attempting to defend the indefensible, looked less like a sincere politician and more like a nervous Treasury spokesman, utterly incapable of reconciling the party's moral rhetoric with its cold, hard political calculus. Fiona Bruce did not just interview him, she gave the public a masterclass in dissecting political expediency, exposing a Prime Minister who is willing to sacrifice principle for popularity and a Scottish leader who is willing to abandon his long-held moral stance simply to toe the party line. This moment on Question Time will forever define the Labour government's humiliating £3 billion U-turn. Thank you so much for watching.